Hello, everyone. In this lesson, I suggest we categorize our errors into expected and unexpected so that we can decide whether or not to report them to the center based on this. Here we have an endpoint for updating the profile where we can change the nickname and name. And we have an expected error when a user tries to set a nickname that already exists in the system. We anticipated this. There's nothing wrong with it. It's indeed an error that the user should see here when they try to change their nickname. But we don't need to report this error to the center. Currently, it is being reported. At the same time, we have an error here that ideally should never occur. That is, it shouldn't be possible for an unauthorized user to attempt to update the profile. If this suddenly happens, it most likely means that on some page we didn't put a block, and for some reason showed the page from this form unauthorized. So it's something to figure out, at least to give it some attention. Therefore, such an error needs to be sent to the center. But right now, we have no way of distinguishing them from one another. This is an error, both of them. In connection with this, let's create a new error type. Remember, we already did something similar in PageWrapper, and we created custom errors which we could later identify specifically as those errors. Now we're going to do something similar, but there will be some differences. Let's get started. In the backend folder, in src.lib, we'll create a file named error.ts. And let's try to start with expected error first. All right, we've indicated that we have an expected error. Let's try to throw it. Now let's go to our endpoint and specify that this is really an error. And this is expected error. Of course, we need to import it. Okay? Now, let's set up the respective logs. We need to try catching something in our trpc.tsx. Here, we're sending data. Let's set a variable from expected error. We need to determine whether it's expected or not. Like we did before, for example in PageWrapper, we were checking if this error is an instance. So, where do we have it? Here are the props. Error instance of. Well, let's try doing something like this and see what happens. Some error came from the server ExpectedError. Okay, let's say so. And let's temporarily allow importing from here. So, this is the front end. We say that we can also do this. So, no. Where are they? Backend.src.error. Let's say sorted. And at the same time, let's make a console log of the error. Console log error. And the error itself. There. And if it's not an expected error, then we need to do everything else. Everything else is this. So, if not an expected error, we send it to Sentry and also log it with pro in the console to top it off. So, checking. And let's also put in a message here that it was sent to Sentry. Sent to Sentry. Good. Let's do it like this now. Output expected error first, then error. Okay, here we go. So, and now we need to output some kind of error here because that one is already expected. Now, index.ts. Okay, and now this error should occur and we need to classify it as expected. All good? Trying to change the nickname to admin, but we already have an admin in the system. Right. We see that this wasn't counted as an expected error. Here's why this happened. We have this error created on the back end, then TRPC converted it to JSON and sent it here. And this error is actually not an instance of this very expected error. We need to better analyze what exactly is in the error itself. Moreover, When it comes from the scene, it has a different format. We need to dissect it. Let's try. All right. To output this error in its original form, just console.log.error isn't enough. Now, when we simply call console.log.error, we see some already transformed error. Here I enter admin again. We see it here in this format, meaning the actual message and some stack trace. That's not enough for us. Let's output it this way. JSON.stringify error. And let's see what's there. Okay, outputting it. We get a scary string. Nothing to worry about. Select everything, copy, and paste into a new file. We're doing alignment and studying our JSON. So what's there? Fields meta, shape and data, and name. And a lot is repeated there. If we search the file, there's no information about the expected error. That is, some type from the backend isn't coming here. So we need to look for something roughly speaking in the data. We have a path here, but it's still unclear what type this error is. Therefore, there's no need to import that error from the backend. Okay, let's then remove these imports and try to handle this error differently. So, that's all. Instance off isn't working for us. All right, let's remove this error from here. Let's try a different approach. Let's add some field to our error. Yes, let's do that. We'll inherit the error, but there's also a field is expected equals true. Okay, and true, let it be a constant. So there can only be true. It can't be false. Although, why? Okay, let's do it this way. I is expected true. And let's try to do the same thing again. So I is expected error. But for now, let's set it to false forcibly. And let's look at the output again. Okay, refresh the page. Admin, update profile, improving the error. Let's analyze the content. New file, aligning, and we check is expected again. Nothing has appeared here, but no worries. Now we'll make it pass such things to us. Good. Let's go to our TRPC on the back end. And add an error format. Here, again where our TRP is declared, you can add an error format after the transformer. The error format takes a function that it passes. Here's the shape. This is what we had in this file. Now, so this is the shape. And it can be modified there somehow. So, shape, original error. And we need to return a new structure to it. So, return. It will look like this. Pass the entire old shape, but modify the date. So, data. It will be shape.data. Modern. And here we can theoretically add something. The only thing is let's also do console.log at this stage, and let's see what's going on there. All right, console.log. This is the backend. Let's do console.ddr shape, tpc10, okay, and console.dir.error. All right, let's take a look at this now. This file can be deleted. Yep. All right, refresh the page. Launching, good. For now, it doesn't matter on the front end what came. We need to see what's on the back end. All right? Initially, it output what? Shape. Here, in shape we have message, code, date. That's the very date we're rewriting here. Good. Path, okay. Let's look at the error. Again, it output in a format not good for us. Let's output it again through JSON.stringify. JSON.stringify error. Okay, and let's take another look. Not much is displayed. All right, in general, with such trial and error, it's hard to achieve anything. We'll have to check the documentation and read how to get the original error. Here, I wanted to show you how to try to go through this process independently. But obviously, not everything can be done just by logging to the console. Sometimes you have to read the documentation, but I already know from reading the documentation what needs to be done. And I'll show you now. We do have the original error here, and this is not the original error. This is a kind of TRPC error, but there is an original error, which is stored in the following place, original error, and it will be in error.chaos. Here, it's here. Accordingly, this chaos is the very error we prefabricated. So it's like that. And here on the back end, since the error was formed on the back end, we can understand whether it's expected or not. Const is expected equals. Original error is expected can be done like this. You can make original error instance of expected error. Okay, good. We'll remove these ends in the log. If we have isExpectedError, I suggest simply passing isExpected here. All right, and let's look here. Here we see the console log is expected. What do we have here? Okay, refresh the admin again. Check the console, isExpected true. So let's check that if we do the opposite, everything will still work. Assume this is not expected. In this case, isExpected false. Okay, on the back end we already understand whether it's expected or not. And here we pass not just the entire error, but only this flag because it's the only thing that matters to us. Well, I think this splitting is redundant. We can do it like this. Okay, and now let's handle this on the front end. Here we've already seen that there's an error object. It has data, and it might contain isExpected. It already sees these types because it gets them from the backend. We added isExpected. It sees everything here. Well, then this line is now redundant. You can do it like this and decide whether to send an error to this very center. Okay, let's check. Now, what error do we have? Expected. So now it's expected. Accordingly, it shouldn't go to the center. Type admin, update profile. Okay, it didn't go to the center because it wasn't logged. There is no log that it was sent to the center. Now let's make this mistake, and it's already flown to the center. Great, we did it. And now we just need to find all the places where we have expected errors. Well, we just need to go through all the files from top to bottom, but I already have it marked where it needs to be done. Now, I'll show you. So we go to sign in. This is our obvious expected error. Then we go to sign up. This is an expected error. This is an expected error. We can generally distinguish this by the fact that if the error is human-made, we expect it to be expected, right? And the errors we don't expect, we wrote in caps lock. And so, in principle, we could write a regex to search all files to find these messages. Maybe this will be interesting. Let's try to do it this way. All right, let's error, parenthesis opens. And then, well, there we have a single quote. And all letters after that should be uppercase, but there can be underscores. Then we write A, Z, and underscore on the next line. So there should be some number of them. and then closing quote, and this one. So, and closing bracket here. And we can do the following. Now we can wrap the text capsule content in parentheses, and this will be stored in a variable for us. Now let's replace the files. My hotkey isn't working at the moment because the program has taken control of it. So for rewriting, I need to do this. Edit, replacing files, and replace with the following. Expected error, $1. Ah, and I still need quotes. I actually needed the opposite. I should have replaced others with expected error. Now I've got involved. Okay, good. Now. How do you make it so there's at least some amount? That's more complicated. Need to think. Okay, let's uncover it and finish. All right, so I definitely need lowercase letters in there, like AZ. Okay, let's write that we need an opening bracket. Oh, guys, honestly, I can't just come up with such a regex on the spot. All right, let's do it manually. I apologize. You can check GPT chat to see how to do it there, because suggesting it'll be tricky. It's really reasonable to write regex. We wrote the first one, it worked quickly, and it was fine. But we don't need it because we need to find the opposite, not where all letters are uppercase, but where they have spaces and lowercase letters, etc. If you feel that writing regex takes longer than fixing everything manually, then go and manually fix everything. If it's faster to write regex, then describe the regex faster. That's a rule. Okay, it was clear. Let's continue working manually. So, we need to go into update password. Here we also have this ExpectedError. Good, then update profile. We've already added it here. So, next, create idea. Here, this expected error. Good, get idea. So, I probably didn't import that. Ah, throw new. Good. So get idea. What's the complaint? About this one. An update idea. So, this is also ExpectedError. Good. All right, great. We've covered expected errors and no longer send unnecessary distractions to Sentry. Only relevant issues are sent. Thank you all. In the next lesson, we'll upload the source map to Sentry to see the neat path of our errors. Thank you all. See you soon. See?